Good morning. I thought I had my act together, but evidently not. Welcome to Unity in Naperville for all of you online who don't know where you are right now from all around the world. So thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Kitty Benson, the minister here at Unity. It's kind of an empty stage this morning, just trying to bring things down a little bit slower, a little bit quieter. We'll have Mark come up and play with me in a little bit yet today. But just an opportunity for us to be still and know, to maybe set aside the busyness of life and the cares of life and take a few opportunities to look at life differently today. We love coming in and lighting our candles before the service and this meditative experience because it reminds us that as we create light in a simple act of lighting the flame here, that it's a reminder of the light that's everywhere present. And whatever we're carrying on our heart today is something that we can surround in that light. So throughout the service today, I'll just encourage you to think about whatever it was that you put in there, see it in the light, see it being soothed and calmed and brought into order and peace in your life. And one of the best ways that we can do this for ourselves and for whoever we're praying for is to close our eyes. So let's just take a moment to do that, to close our eyes and remind ourselves the infinite presence of God is within in this moment. A presence that fills our bodies with life, that fills our mind with ideas and solutions, that fills our heart with love and compassion. And as we hold on to those ideas, those divine ideas, we can rest and relax knowing this is the only power working in our lives. And we are grateful. Let's take a moment to speak our invocation. The words are up here on the screen. Together, there's only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Thank you.
Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Yeah! Good morning!
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What if? No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey. Look what I got at the checkout. Dishwasher safe. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
What if your world was make-believe?
Cue the sun.
While the world he inhabits is counterfeit.
I'm not allowed to talk to you.
That's how I look. On your tape.
There's nothing fake about Truman himself.
What if you didn't know it? Until now.
Ruh-roh. Until now. Let's just let that now be now. What if right now was your opportunity to awaken? You know, the good news is none of us here, at least I don't think any of us here, are in a reality TV show. And this is not a reality TV show, although technically we are on the air. And we don't live in a world that is constructed, or is it? Does it have power over us, or doesn't it? Does it have the final say as to what is real, or doesn't it? This is something for us I want us to think about today, because as we've been talking about the weight of the world and reminding you of the many opportunities we have to experience that weight of the world, many people on this planet believe that that's life. It's just part of the human condition. There's no way outside of it. if we were brought up in a spiritual path, some of us might have been raised to believe that the only freedom that we get happens after we die. When we leave the body, heaven and golden streets await us. Then there's those who are not on a spiritual path, and they just look at this as, oh, well, have to put up with it. This is the way it is. Life is all about suffering. As a matter of fact, the Buddhists believe up here on the screen that there is a cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. And technically, that's where I am too. But this next part, I'm not. This means that people will experience suffering many times over. All of the things a person goes through in life cause suffering, and they cannot do anything about it. That's from the First Noble Truth. I'm not going to sign up for that one. All of the things a person goes through in life cause suffering, and they cannot do anything about it. So we might be in that camp where the collective consciousness of the human race is holding the idea that this universe and this planet that we're on and this body that we're in has the power to basically control our lives, determine our well-being, and even to the very end has the power to end our life. And some of us also see some of the things we have no control over, like our gender, how we were born, our race, our cultures. We have no control over that. And if it brings suffering, then so be it. There's nothing I can do about it. Some of us look at the world economy or our little city's economy, our personal economy is having power over us. Maybe what our religion has taught us having power over us. Governments, things we just can't do anything about. And the ultimate statement that we're all used to making, at least once in our life, is, I'm only human. I'm only human. So when we come from that point of view, we're feeling the weight of the world of that humanity, and it just feels like the inescapable nature of things. So that weight will carry you through from birth to death if you pay attention to what's going on around you in the world. And when we get to that point of aging, this is kind of on my mind because we have our Aging with Spirit group meeting regularly, and we're really kind of looking at that experience of aging and how the world seems to control it. So it begins by, reaching a certain age where they say, go home, don't work anymore. And therefore, run low on money, and then sit in a back corner where we don't have to see you or include you in this. Maybe your memory's going to go. Maybe your body starts to weaken. Maybe you start to have to take chronic medication. And many of us fear that idea of losing our independence and having to leave the body. What will the end be like? And that last section of life right there, where we think about when it all ends for us, we can start preparing in our mind years ahead of time, imagining what it's going to be like. One of the things we do is we look at our parents and how they died, and we let that control our view, and we start to feel like that victim. We start to feel the misery of it before we even get there. And it's also that moment of letting go. That's really hard for the ego to do that, to leave the body. So ultimately, we might say, and then what? I had a beloved set of parents who grew up in mostly the Baptist camp, and not at the camp itself, but in that denomination. And they're, they had a traditional Christian belief about the end of life and what happens after you die, and yet still, I remember my mom fearing what really happens after you die. Fearing possible judgment or possible punishment or possible nothingness. How are you feeling right now? The weight of the world on your shoulders. This is what we're up against on a daily basis, mostly because the world itself can feel like a weight. The human body can feel like a weight. So what if What if we woke up and saw the tear in the sky where that light fell down on the floor in front of us, and we started thinking differently about this experience, about this planet, about these bodies? What if we started living as our true self? What are we truthfully? What are we? We are spirit. The body is a beautiful apparatus that we've borrowed for a little while, and it's working with us to allow us to have this experience, but our essence is of spirit. And this identity that we have as spirit is over and above the weight of the world. Something that Anita Moorjani wrote in, I think it was her second book, What If This Is Heaven? There's a thought. That's the name of the book. She says this, she had a near-death experience, okay, so she left, who knows for the amount of time, but had an opportunity to see herself just as a spiritual being. Here's what she said. After coming back into my body, I remember wondering why we were never taught about how unconditionally loved we are, how pure we are, how amazing and powerful and magnificent we are. Why are we never taught that there's no judgment, or that the most important thing we can focus on is love, not fear of retribution? And that's a good question. How many of us got that class in school? You are a super being. We're kind of talking about that in our class right now. And these super beings in the book are people who have awakened, as Jesus did, awakened. They would probably not say that they matched Jesus's expression, but became aware of who they really are as spiritual beings, so much so that they do not have to live under the weight of this world. And they came to this understanding, as they say in the book, that man is not the man we thought he was. Wouldn't that be interesting if we really moved into that thought? That's how we're going to lift this weight, is being able to move into that spiritual identity that we really are. And once we get there into that spiritual consciousness, we have the ability to empower all aspects of the human experience, starting with our bodies. Something that Emily Cady, I've got some really good quotes today, so see if you can take these in. From Emily Cady, she said, "The outer life is but the outflowing of the inner life. And that inner life is fed from the fountain of life, moment by moment, through the Christ at the center of our being. God gives his own life freely to all who can receive it." Now, it's not the kind of thing where God has got it over in a closet somewhere and you say, "I'm ready to receive life," and God brings it to you because you've been good this week. God is life. It's giving of itself always. And this physical body could not exist if it weren't being sourced out of spiritual life. So just think about that. When we tend to let the body tell us we're not enough and feel that weight of sickness on our consciousness as well as in the body, we also have the opportunity to remember that at the same time, there is spiritual life energy in our bodies. It's the essence, the source, the foundation, the ground of being. And if we could just learn that and accept that and know that life is present in us and give our attention to it when the body starts to weaken, it's our chance to renew. Tune yourself into your light body when things start to go south, and come back into your spirit. When you put your mind on that truth of life in the body, you are now aligned and allowing the divine life to enliven you. Here's something that our co-founder Myrtle Fillmore said: "Fix your undivided attention upon the inner divine pattern of perfection. Bring all the mental attitudes and centers of consciousness, and even the physical structures, to this high place in mind, where we see as God sees. We prayerfully consider all our living habits to better understand whether we're according with the divine law of health, or if we're worrying or fearing anything." Remember that word chording, like the major and minor chords we play in music. Are we chording in harmony with divine life, or are we singing a dissonant tune one that feels heavier. And as we learn to practice chords that align with spirit, our body follows suit. It's drawn up into that higher frequency of expression. So the weight of the world in our bodies, on our bodies, through our bodies, does not have to dominate, when at the same time there is a spiritual life energy in us that wants to express if we give it permission. We can also remove the weight of the world as it relates to our finances. I mean, that's got to be one of the number one things that human beings worry about, because our finances or some form of income is what provides our daily bread. We could starve to death. We could have to live out in the elements if we don't have enough. It's a big thing for most human beings. It can feel like a weight for most human beings. So keep in mind that most of us are still looking outward, using our senses to determine, okay, I got my paycheck today, that's my source, what if it goes away? I got a new job today, that's my source, what if it goes away? What if the stock market crashes? What if I lose all my savings? What if my parents cut me off from my allowance? If only we had an allowance. Yeah, so we're thinking what ifs, because we are giving power to the outer. And that creates that weight of the world. That's the way the world looks at our supply. And that is not the truth of how it works. So here's what Ernest Holmes says about it. He's the founder of Science of Mind. What we see comes from what we do not see. This is the explanation of the whole visible universe. So right there, let's just stop looking to our salary, our Social Security as our source. The substance that we deal with in itself is never limited. Because we're limited is not reason why the universe should have limitation. Our limitation, listen, our limitation is only our unbelief. We're not limited by actual boundaries, but by false ideas about life, and by a failure to recognize that we are dealing with the infinite. The power and substance behind everything remain infinite. Now, if the weight of the world's finances is on your shoulders, this is a chance for us to be forever lifted above that weight if we can come back to where our finances come from. Spiritual energy, the substance of God. That's what it starts with, in the invisible. The energy that science tells us fills heaven and earth, we say is the sparkling spiritual energy of God that now becomes a lectern, a blouse, my glasses, your bodies. It's all spiritual energy that we can turn into something. And we listen to what our other co-founder, Charles Fillmore, says about this in his book, Prosperity. He said, God is the intangible essence of that which we have formed into and named matter. What is that invisible essence? God, the substance of God. God's substance may be conceived as God energy or spirit light. God's substance lies back of matter and form. Substance cannot be seen, touched, tasted, or smelled, yet it's more substantial than matter, for it is the only substantiality and reality in this universe. When we get to know that, when it sinks into our consciousness, we are lifted from the weight of the world. It's very easy to be born into this experience and say, there's not enough to go around. What if you knew that there's always plenty? It's waiting for us to see it and call it forth, form it exactly as our heart desires by our faith and imagination. What if? And I gotta say, probably one of the biggest weights in the world as human beings is just getting along, right? And that's actually one of the main reasons I think we come into this as spiritual beings, is to interact with other beings that aren't aware of who they are and run into them in a feeling of, you are inherently bad. We're taught that, right? The human beings, especially if you have a faith tradition that teaches you that, you're born inherently bad with a sinful nature. How in the world do we have a chance of living in peace and harmony with one another if we look at each other as sinful? I mean, there's so many things that we think about this world in relation to this idea that it's a dog-eat-dog world. You know, every man for himself. There's not enough to go around, so I got to take care of me. And then we talked last week about having the brain working from a negativity bias on top of that. That's what it turns towards first. Why do we see the inhabitants of the world as a weight? Because we're looking at them again with our sense consciousness. We look at their behavior and we say, you are bad. And with the negativity bias on top of that, we are expecting to find bad. We're protecting ourselves from bad. So how do we stand a chance with that point of view? That you are bad, that I was born with a sinful nature. And if we have this negativity bias, it means that we're going to look for the threats rather than turn within and say, what's happening here? What does my spiritual understanding say about this relationship? We avoid turning within. I was in shock when I read this next piece of information from science.org. Take a look. We would rather electrocute ourselves than spend time in our own thoughts. This was demonstrated in a controversial 2014 study in which 67% of male participants and 25% of female participants opted to give themselves unpleasant electric shocks rather than spend 15 minutes in peaceful contemplation. I just want to cry. Wow is right. What happens when we spend time in peaceful contemplation? What's the first thing that usually happens when we just sit down alone in a room by ourselves and stop talking, stop doing? What happens? Thoughts. And what kind of thoughts? Lots of them. Yes. Who's doing the talking? Yeah, but who of us? Ego is doing the talking. It's going to jump right in there and start telling you everything that you should know and feel bad about yourself, about the world. Its mechanism is to protect just as much as that brain negativity bias. So it'll have a lot to say. It will tell us all the things we're doing wrong and that we should be ashamed of. It will tell us all the things we should be afraid of and that we're not ready for and that we're going to suffer some more. So it's no wonder we don't want to spend time in quiet contemplation unless we know how to do it well, unless we start to practice that time in the quiet. I got to say that this is a decision that we all get to make. Let me share from the super beings. Did I say this already, that the super beings are people who've kind of discovered their spiritual nature? And so here's one that said, when the question was, what's the biggest obstacle in attaining a realization of truth? He said, mental laziness. Not caring enough. A contentment with things as they are. Even if the things include poor health and financial insufficiency. You always follow your priorities. You do what you choose to do. If you want to develop your super consciousness, there's nothing to hold you back. Now just take that in for a minute. If you want to develop your super consciousness, if you want to make that be the driving consciousness that you live from, there's nothing to hold you back. Yikes. But if there's not a burning desire to do so, there will always be an excuse to put it off. Isn't that strange? I tell a person that he can have a perfect body, financial abundance, the ideal mate or companion, complete protection, total fulfillment, great success, and he says, well, that sounds good, but I just don't have time to get involved with that now. So, you know what? If that's you, no shame, no blame, that is completely your choice. If it's easier for you and it feels perfectly fine and normal to be carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, nobody's going to judge you for that. But no fair whining. No fair whining about it. Now, if that weight comes from an ignorance of your spiritual nature, then let today be the day for your aha moment. And nobody needs to have a near-death experience here to know this. Just listen to my words. You are an eternal, infinite spiritual being. And it wants to come here and play inside this human body and using this brain, and dealing with the ego, but it's still an infinite, eternal being. It's yours to be right here and now. And you might need to do a little practicing, which is why Unity in Naperville exists, to help you practice, to study spiritual truth principles, to come in an awareness of what's available to you and who you really are. We practice meditation to teach you how to calm down and let those busy, hurtful thoughts go as we turn again and again and again towards our heart, towards love, towards the presence of God within. Be still and know. We practice affirmations. We say them all the time here because that helps to retrain the brain, to retrain all those negative ideas that we have been learning and living from for our entire life. We change them by renewing the mind, as Paul told us to do. We talk about looking past the appearances of the body, of other people's behavior, of the number on your bank account. Looking past that and into that invisible realm that can provide the life and the love and the supply that's always available to us. And to consciously apply the divine law. That law that says what I'm thinking and feeling and believing, I'm creating. So let's think and feel and believe consciously about what we want. It's a choice. It's a practice. It's an opportunity to be the truth of who we are. Think for a moment, as a spiritual being, do you really think we came into this dimension and into this body for a life of punishment? I don't think so. I think we came because it offers us that opportunity, but we're not here to get stuck there under the weight of the world. Feel it and release it. Feel it and overcome it. That means an opportunity to create in new ways and solve problems, not live underneath them. It means we came here to find that flow of infinite good and just keep moving within it. To be kind, to be compassionate, to be generous. That's our true nature. And that when we do that, we just attract more kind and generous and compassionate experiences. Yes, there is a weight of the world. The world itself, this human experience, is a weight. And we don't have to stay there underneath it. If we could learn to raise that veil and become the truth of our being. So how about if we take some time in meditation for that? You okay with that? Oh, wait, let me finish with one last, just when you're ready to get settled in. I want you to hear these words from Jesus, but I want you to imagine that they're your higher self, the Christ in you, the Spirit of God saying them to you up here on the screen. Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and you'll recover your life. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Yikes, that's good. That's good. So let's take some time in the quiet. And I lied about the light. It's kind of bright. So let's just take some time to find our own center. Feel the chair beneath you. Relax your body. sensing that right here, right now, in my body is divine life. It is the life that gives energy to my body. Feel that energy now. Feel it from within, in your hands, in your feet, in your heartbeat. We feel this divine life in our breath, flowing through our blood. The very hum of life in our body. Notice it as a subtle energy that's pervading as a power throughout your being. This is the life that we raise above sickness and express as God in us through our luminous spiritual body within. Just see this body filled with a luminous spiritual body. See this light renewing and refreshing, animating your body now. Knowing its power is perfect, whole, enlivening every cell. There's no separation between body and spirit. The divine light is the very flesh of life in me. I know in this moment, in God, I live, I move, and I have my being. I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation. No distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. And we breathe in deeply, allowing that veil to raise between physical and spiritual. Opening our thoughts to a field of divine substance everywhere. invisibility as it stands under all that is in this physical world. We see it as the source of all of our good, and we relax in that knowing that there's always enough. This divine energy goes on and on. It responds even now to my call. As I envision my heart's desire, I gratefully receive it. From spirit to physical, there is always enough. I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil. Let's breathe again. Raising that veil between human and spirit. Removing that separation between me and all of humankind. There is only one spirit here. I see their divine light shining brightly. I accept their unique spirit as they are, God expressing individually as billions of beings. I sense their heart beating with love, in rhythm with my own heart. As I open to all the beings around me, I desire their good. I take a moment to feel my heart sending love and goodness to all beings on the planet. I know that as I see all beings with love, that is who I experience in every relationship. As I give love, it comes back to me now. And everyone I meet, from all corners of the world, come to me on the essence of love. I see smiles. I see kindness. I am generous and compassionate. My heart overflows. God is right